Okay, thank you for watching the writing section of our DVD series. Coming up is going to be the movie production series, and that entire series has many repetitions of the same white balance and gamma settings in different settings and environments. This is not unlike the film that anyone would show you to teach any difficult task. The repetition is similar to a film school classroom environment, where the student is exposed to the same information in different situations until it becomes second nature. It is the same reason they run soldiers through basic training and repeat the same concepts again and again in different combat situations. That way, when the student gets on the set, he or she will not panic or default to bad habits like auto white balance, auto iris, standard gamma, and standard color matrix. The student will know exactly what the final image with that gamma setting will look like when it gets to the DVD stage. That is why we keep repeating everything again and again, but in different situations. If you don't feel like going through the white balance settings and the gamma settings every single time, you can just fast forward past that portion. It is just there for your information. However, the power of the series itself will only be felt when you watch everything all together, and then after you're done with the entire series, then you'll feel like you've actually walked on the set with us and that you've spent a whole week with us, and then after that all was said and done, we sat down and explained to you everything that we did during the whole filming and then after the fact, and you feel like you've actually made the movie with us. And from that, there's going to be an information overload, kind of, so to speak, that will result in you remembering all these concepts later on in the future. We use something of an unorthodox method for teaching everything about production. We want you to feel like you kind of came with us to the set, and we're teaching you how we're doing every single location, every single setup, step by step, rather than just teaching you lighting only and then audio only. We're going to teach you everything we did for one setup and then move on to the next setup. So we do something like lighting, audio, acting, and then we move on to the next location, the next setup, and we teach you all the things that we want to teach you about that particular setup. So hopefully it'll be like you're kind of listening to a story, or you kind of made friends with a filmmaker or a director, and he kind of took you along on the set with him, and he's just kind of telling you everything that he's doing from step to step. Sometimes we'll start with lighting, and then we'll go into white balance, then audio. Sometimes we'll start with audio or with white balance, then go into lighting, and then acting and performances and ethics. There's a lot of different things that you're going to end up learning for the next few hours. So hopefully we'll be able to take you along this journey with us, and hopefully at the end of the series you'll have gotten so much out of it that you'll feel like you can walk on the set, direct your actors, communicate with your DP, and fulfill the requirements of the script that, maybe you wrote yourself or somebody else wrote, and come out with a great product at the end that is everything that the script intended for it to be. We're going to start with some interior lighting here. This is one of the scenes from the movie that you saw where Rachel comes over and she starts to paint. She sets down her coffee there and she begins to paint, and then she gets a call from Jake, who had just encountered the SUV and had a near-death experience, and he's going to tell her all about it. So what we're going to do in this section is we're going to discuss interior lighting for quite a few number of hours ahead. We're going to try to illustrate the lighting as much as we can, and also give you as many placeholders so you can know exactly where the lighting is coming from for each one of the setups. While we're doing lighting, we're going to also discuss acting, we're going to discuss cutting, and all kinds of other subjects. So you're going to get the entire scene exactly as we did it, and we will discuss everything applicable to lighting and other concepts as we go through the scene. So this is our DP, Evan Grant, and he's assembling the Indie Dolly, which is a small portable compact dolly that can be packed into a small suitcase-sized carry-on bag. This is a very small crew, and he's doing pretty much all of his own grip work. I'm helping him out whenever I can, but we didn't hire any grips for him. Very small operation, pretty much 3 people on the team here. What he's doing is attaching clamps to the Indie Dolly track so that it doesn't roll away from the particular position that it's at right now until he's ready to use it, while we're framing up the shot. Eventually he removes the clamps and he's able to perform the dolly shot that he's doing right now. So let's talk about lighting. The first thing we're going to talk about is, what are those lights doing right there, especially that one right there? Why is that there, and why is that other light where it is? What are we trying to achieve? Let's look at first what is in the set as a natural light source as part of a set. The first thing we have is this chandelier. It would be lighting the model, or our actress Rachel, as she's seated in that chair. But in order for it to do that, we would have to gain up. We would have to gain up 6 decibels or even 12 decibels of gain to get that chandelier and that light on the right side to lighter. Of course, that does not look very good. It adds a lot of grain into the frame. And what grain does is it degrades your image. It makes something that is being shot on a high-definition camera like this, which is capable of a very nice image, and it degrades it down to something that would be shot on a very low-resolution camera. So what you want to do is, you'll hear me again and again repeating in the course that I really don't like gain. Gain is kind of like a last resort, a final option when there's nothing else that you can do in the shot that's going to work. It degrades the image, it doesn't look good, and it's kind of really fake looking. It doesn't look like film grain. It's a whole different kind of thing. Maybe a little bit, 3 decibels might look like film grain, but anything higher than that is to me unacceptable. So the only way to cure that kind of ailment is to use lighting. And there's the lit shot. That's what it looks like when you light it. Now that you've been looking at the other shot, which had all that grain on it, when you look at this shot, it should hopefully make a huge difference. So how do you make it so that the light coming from that chandelier is mimicked by our lights? How do you make that light from that chandelier look like it's actually lighting her? Well, the light's going to travel down a path from the light down to her face, and we're going to illustrate that path. It's going to come from about the back 3/4 corner of her face, and it's going to rim light her face and her body. It's going to illuminate the rim of her face and her body. It's called the rim light. So we were going to mimic that lighting effect by using this particular KinoFlow fluorescent light. It's a very soft light, very nice, and you can turn off and on certain tubes inside it, the actual fluorescent tubes inside it, to diminish or intensify the amount of light that it's producing. It is actually what's producing this light right now. So if you like this lighting, that's what the KinoFlow light is doing. It's making that really nice rim light on the left side of her face. And again, when I say left side, I mean our left side, so not her left side of her body. So it's acting as a key light. Even though it is coming in from a back 3/4 and it's actually acting as a rim light, but because it's the brightest light on the set that is actually hitting her, and it is actually the light that's creating the major shadow on her, it's called the key light. The key light is the main light on the set. All those KinoFlow lights have tungsten bulbs in them, which means that all the bulbs, the fluorescent bulbs that are inside the fluorescent lights, are burning at the exact same temperature as normal tungsten bulbs that you would normally find in a tungsten fixture, like an ARRI light or some sort. Let's talk about the light that's creating that highlight on her hair right there on the right side. What is illuminating her hair and making it so that you can separate her from the background? You can see her how she's separated from the background. And separating an actor or a performer or a subject that's in the frame from the background means that you're actually outlining them. You're outlining their bodies so that they're not part of the background, so they're not the exact same exposure as the background. And the highlights are the white areas in her hair right now that are causing her to separate from the background. And later on you'll see that if those highlights were not there, she would not be separated from the background at all. The key light, of course, on the left side is helping a lot as well too, but the backlight comes in and really kind of makes her separate from the background as well, and it also illuminates her hair, otherwise you won't really be able to see her hair. So let's talk about how we actually created that backlight. There's the light right there. It's a light panel, which is a battery-operated light that has quite a few number of LEDs in it, light-emitting diodes, and they normally emit, this particular light normally emits a daylight temperature light, but we added that orange gel. That's why it looks kind of orange on the outside of it, because we added an orange gel to make it match with the rest of the lights that are in the set right now. So let's see what this light is actually doing right now. When we dim it up, you turn it on, it's creating that highlight on her hair right now. You can even see it from this angle. It's not the angle that we intend to be shooting from, but even from this angle you can see that when it gets dimmed up, there are these highlights that are generated on her hair, and when it gets turned off, they go away. Here they are coming back on right now. So you can see exactly what the light is doing. Now, that's the light path that it's taking. It's coming in from the top left-hand side right there. So here it is from the camera side, and there's the beam path. It's coming from the top right-hand side of the frame, and it's creating those highlights on our hair. Later on, we're going to go ahead and turn it on or off, and we're going to see exactly what it's doing when you turn it on and off. But first, let's go ahead and see how we mounted it up there and outside of the frame. You can see this ingenious mounting that Evan devised here, where he used a Cardellini clamp to clamp to the molding of the door. Then he used the grip clamp from Matthews to go ahead and attach the light panel right out of the frame on the right hand side. Now, you can see the way the Cardellini clamp, the little Cardellini clamp right there, is connected directly to the molding, and at the same time he attached it in such a way that it does not damage the molding too. And when we went ahead and finished, setting up that light, and we started doing the dolly shot there, we noticed that right towards the end of the dolly shot, you could see it just a little bit. So we had a choice at this point. We could either tilt down the tripod towards the end there so we can't see the top there, or we could actually move the light back even further on that grip clamp. What we actually found to be the best solution is for us to both tilt down just a little bit on the final frame and move the light back on the grip clamp just a little bit more so it's even further out of the frame. So here's the new frame right now. We're going to go ahead and do the other dolly shot. This is the one right after the rehearsal dolly shot. And as you can see right at the end of it, you can see that there's a light out there, but it's not actually in the frame. So it feels actually really nice and natural. You'll find out that the more you do this, there's really never one fix to any one problem. There's always like 2 or 3 things that you're going to have to do to fix this one problem. Now, we're going to go ahead and do some light modeling right now. This is key plus fill plus backlight. So we've went over already what the key and the backlights do. But what is that fill? What does the fill do? The fill light does exactly what it sounds like it does. It fills in the shadows that are created by the key light and the backlight. It usually comes from directly above the camera to the right or to the left side, and it actually comes in and fills in all the shadows so you can see the performer's face, you can see their features, you can see their eyes especially, which is the most important thing. Generally, 9 times out of 10, the fill light will be a very large, soft source. So it's going to be a large, soft light, and it's going to be not quite as intense or as powerful as the key light. The key light's always going to be more powerful, more intense, so that it creates the major shadow on the performer or on the subject that's actually in front of the lens. Depending on the type of lighting contrast that you're doing, you might actually need a very, very bright fill. But the only important thing is that it has to not really create any new shadows, because once it creates new shadows, it kind of becomes its own key light, so to speak. And you want to try to avoid as much as possible creating new shadows by controlling the intensity and the size of the fill light. So we're going to show you how to do that. Nothing is going to be mystified. We're going to show you exactly how to do that in the rest of the series. But now we're going to go ahead and just show you where to position a KinoFlow fill light and what intensity to have it at. So this is a KinoFlow ballast, and what a ballast is just a glorified name for a power supply or a DC converter. It takes AC current and it converts it to DC current so that the fluorescent light can operate. Now this KinoFlow ballast is more special in a very certain way. First of all, it allows you to turn off individual tubes. You see those 2 switches on the left side. Each one of them controls a separate tube, so you can turn off and on one tube at a time. There's also another switch on the left side that says 2 foot, 4 foot. What that does sends more current to the bulbs because they're 4 feet long as opposed to only 2 feet long. But if you have 2 foot bulbs like the ones that we have right now, flipping that switch up to the 4 foot setting will give you a little bit more boost of power if you need it. We didn't really use it here, and what it does, it actually shortens the life of the bulb, so you really don't want to use it very much. But kind of as a last-ditch effort to get an extra little bit of light out of a KinoFlow 2 foot bulb, you can kind of flip that switch to the 4 foot and get a little bit more of a boost. Not recommended though, because it shortens the life of the bulb. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and switch them off. This is switching off the fill light, and there's the direction of the fill light. There's where it's coming from, and it's off. Now this is just key and backlight now. This is just key and backlight. We'll go over all the stuff again, so don't worry about it. We'll go back through this at least once more. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show the position of the key light again. So that's where the key light is coming from. It's coming from the left side. That's that 4-bank KinoFlow light. We're going to go ahead and turn off all 4 banks at the same time. There they all go. All the bulbs are being turned off. And there goes the key light. Pretty dark. Without the key and the fill, it's pretty much a dark set. Now there's the backlight. It's still making the highlights by itself. We're going to go ahead and in a second here dim down that backlight and show you what's going to happen when you turn off the backlight. So here it goes. We're dimming it down right now all the way off. And there it goes. So that's the set with no lighting from us, no professional lights. This is just a chandelier on the top left-hand side and that soft light on the right-hand side of the frame that are just practical lamps. They're just part of the set. So we're turning on the fill light again. There's the fill light. So this is the intensity that we had the fill light at. So this is the image with just the fill light. No key, no backlight, just the fill light. You can see what the fill light's doing just by itself. So we're going to turn on the second bulb and then back to just one bulb and then second bulb and one bulb. So you can see the difference and why we selected to only turn on just one bulb, because only one bulb gave us that feeling like the chandelier is actually lighting her. With the 2 bulbs, it just felt too flat, it felt too lit, but that was just our opinion. I mean, you know, it might be different for you when you're doing it yourself, but just our opinion was that we liked it was just one bulb. So if you have 4 bulbs in the key light and you only have 1 bulb being turned on in the fill light, that means you have 4 times more power coming out of that key light. The key light is also closer to her, whereas the fill light's even further away. So you have even less power that's being generated by that fill light that is actually reaching her than from the key light. So the key light is at least 4 to 6 times more intense than the fill light in this particular situation. But for us, it felt natural for this environment. So here comes the fill light coming back on, and you can see that there's a shadow in the background. This is when we have both bulbs on, and that's one of the reasons also why we turned down one bulb, because we didn't really like that shadow being there. It just didn't feel natural back there. Remember, one of the jobs as a fill light is not to create new shadows or to create extremely soft shadows. Now let's go ahead and see what it looks like with no fill. This is just keyless backlight. Now we're going to turn on the fill again, on and off. This is brighter. This is too bright. And we're going to go ahead and turn it back down to normal level, and then this is going to be the key down. So this is just fill plus backlight. This is just fill from backlight. We lose that highlight on the left side of her face, which was creating a nice shape to her face and kind of rimming the side of her face and separating her from the background. So this is now just a backlight. No key, no fill, just backlight. You can see exactly what the backlight does by itself, but then you can also see what you're missing with the key and the fill. So you know, if you had used just gain on here, it wouldn't have looked very good. Even if you had just used the backlight, it just wouldn't look good. It's a key, fill, and backlight combination, that basic 3-point lighting system that really ends up working for you. So now we're going to talk about gain. So this is the scene with absolutely no lighting whatsoever, and we're going to go ahead and gain up slowly here until we hit 6 decibels gain. And we're going to look at the scene just with 6 decibels of gain. You can see that we lit her pretty much exactly the same way as if she was lit by just those lights, the chandelier and the actual practical right there on the right side. When we go to 12 decibels gain, you can really see it working for you right there. So you see that we motivated our lights pretty much where those lights are coming from. But had we not lit her, had we just used the lights and used gain, we'd have a lot of grain in the scene. It would look, you know, to me it would look really, really bad. To some people it might look good. Now let's go ahead and do an iris test here. When we iris down all the way, we can really see exactly where all the light sources are in the room. You can always use that as a little bit of a trick when you walk into a situation. If you can't see all the light sources right away, maybe there's a reflective surface that doesn't quite catch your eye right away, you can see that the highlight that we created on the left side of her face is a lot more flattering than the light that would have normally come in from just that practical on the right side at 12 decibels of gain. We're going to show you what it looks like and how to add motion to a shot, to a short dolly shot. You can see that black table on the right side there. It doesn't have anything on it right now. Now watch what happens when we add some foreground objects. That's what they're called, foreground objects, to the scene, so that when you make a small dolly move like that, you see those foreground objects moving closer to you? When you alternate that back and forth, and we're going to do that here in just a second, you can see exactly what foreground objects moving in the frame are going to do for a short dolly shot for you. They really make a huge difference. This is without, and this is with. You really get a sense of motion when you're approaching something. And don't forget, we learned before that wide-angle lenses, the closer an object is to a wide-angle lens, which is what we're shooting with, the faster it's going to move. So it's going to feel like we're moving even faster and closer towards the subject in this case. Now watch how important it is to take care of all the objects that are in the frame that are distracting. You see them shifting right there, the phone, the chair, the guitar, and also we'll show you one more here. There's that object in the background right there. Those are all the naturally occurring objects that are in the background, and we just move them around and watch the final frame. See how much more flattering it is? There's no highlight from the phone, the chair isn't distracting, the guitar is in the right place, everything is right. And now we added that easel on the center of the frame to kind of add a little bit more ambiance as well to the scene and make it feel like it's lived in, like she's actually really painting, even though she's really not. So now she's coming in and she's trying to find the phone. We're trying to figure out where to put the phone for her so that when she comes in, she can just reach for the phone and it doesn't feel like it's abnormal for her to leave the phone there. So notice where the phone is right there. It's right, and notice how her hand is kind of like, you know, ready for the phone. And I also made a note of that for her. Don't walk in with your hand ready for the phone. You got to kind of loosen up your hand and your arm, relax, and just kind of be surprised by the phone. So notice her right there. She doesn't have it ready for the phone anymore. It's just kind of relaxed, and she's looking for it because she forgot where it is. And now she has to reach back for it, which is not a natural movement. Even though it might happen in real life, it just doesn't look good on the camera. So we're going to have her walk in one more time. We put the phone in a different place. Now it's on a dining room table. That didn't look good either. It just didn't feel right. Like, well, she was walking there and all of a sudden the phone rang and it was just too opportunistic. It was too, regulated. It just wouldn't happen that way. So we had her do it one more time. And you're going to see that right now. And we put the phone back on that black filing cabinet right there in the center of the frame. But what we told her is that we're going to go ahead and have her sit down first. Notice how her hand is also ready for the phone again. So she went back to doing that. It's just really distracting. And that's another thing, as part of your job as a director is to coach your actors. So now we had her sit down first and then the phone rings and she reaches for it. So we're going to have her do it one more time without the distracting hand gesture, the hand movement. So now her hand is relaxed again. So she grabs the brush, she sits down and she starts to paint with her coffee cup in hand, which also ended up being distracting. And now she hears the phone. She's looking for it. Oh, there it is. She grabs the phone and starts to talk. That's how that's how the basic building blocks of a scene, how you slowly establish something that feels natural. Because you don't arrive on the set almost ever knowing exactly what you're going to do. You just kind of discover it as you go along. And here we go. We're actually moving the dolly on a dramatic moment. So we're waiting for him to tell her the bad news. And as soon as we do that, we start dollying in. That's dollying in on a dramatic moment. So it increases the drama of the scene. And also, mind you, you don't always have to have your other actor in the set like we did over here. We were fortunate. We had David Lee over there right in the set to talk to her, but you won't always have that. The other actor might be, miles and miles away and he can't come in. So here we go one more time. We're giving her some instruction right here. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have you enjoy what you do, and you're going to come out and actually, this is the one thing that you wait for all day so you can come home and do this. So you have to, this is something that you really enjoy doing. And then when he tells you, I almost got killed, that's when your psyche changes over and you become depressed. And, I have to just kind of see it in your face, that change. So essentially what I told her is that she has to come in kind of like she's enjoying herself. This is her time alone. This is her time to enjoy herself and do her painting. And only when he calls her and gives her the bad news, that's when there's a shift in her personality at that point. That's when there's a shift in her character, and she starts to sympathize for him, and you understand more that she actually cares about him and she doesn't want him to be hurt. So at first she's nice and happy, everything's great, and then when she finds the phone, at first she's really happy to hear from him. That's naturally because she really wants to talk to him. And of course, it didn't work out in this first take, but you'll see on the next take it really did work out. So at first she's happy to talk to him, but then when she hears the bad news, she drops the coffee cup, and her demeanor changes. Kind of like a black cloud starts circling overhead, and we start also dollying in with the camera to add the dramatic moment, to add the dramatic impact of the moment. So now she comes back in and she's going to go ahead and carry that out. And we added a little cup on the bottom right-hand side, bottom center actually of the screen, for her to kind of put the brush in, get all the watercolor out or the whatever paint she's using, latex paint. And so she sits down. She's pleasant. Everything's great. So now she reaches down to kind of wet the brush and get the latex paint going again, which just adds more realism to the scene, even though she really isn't painting anything. It's just a blank canvas. And we also changed her body posture so it's more relaxed. And she finds the phone, she starts talking, and again, she still doesn't start doing that whole thing where I wanted her to change her demeanor when he gets on the phone and tells her the bad news. She's still not kind of happy with what she's doing before he calls her. It still doesn't come through. It comes through as her just being kind of there and kind of doing what the director is telling her to do at this point. It takes sometimes your actors a couple of extra takes to really gather their strength for this character, and then you'll see in the next take how that happens. So here we go. She's coming in right now, and she sits down. Her body's in a relaxed position, and she feels more pleasant now. You can tell with her face. If you go back to the old way she was acting on the last take, you can see that on this particular take, she's become more pleasant. She's put something in her mind to make her feel more pleasant, which we worked on that. She's kind of thought of a happier place. Not a place where all these people are putting all these lights on her. And see how she's smiling at first when she talks to him, and then as soon as he tells her the bad news, her entire face changes. Her body starts to hunch forward. You can really see it in her, that she's receiving some bad news, and that she really cares about his character. And the worse it gets, the more she hunches over, the more it's a natural reaction. It's a gut reaction. When you are dealt bad news, your stomach kind of tightens up, and you start to hunch forward a little bit, like you can't believe what you're hearing on the phone. And that's how she is. It's not an indication. She's not indicating her character, her what she's supposed to be acting. It's a natural gut reaction, literally, to receiving bad news. Okay, now we're going to listen to some different audio samples, and you can hear the differences between different ways to record audio on that set and how they sound differently in a room like that with hard walls. Here we go.
Hello?
Rachel. Hi, it's Jake.
Hi. Are you okay?
No, I almost got killed.
What? What happened?
I was riding my bike home from work and this truck came around the corner and almost ran me over.
Oh my god. Do you need me to take you to the hospital? Hello?
Rachel. Hi, it's Jake.
Hi. Are you okay?
No, I almost got killed.
What? What happened?
I was riding my bike home from work and this truck came around the corner and almost ran me over.
Oh my god. Do you need me to take you to the hospital? Hello?
Rachel. Hi, it's Jake.
Hi. Are you okay?
No, I almost got killed.
What? What happened?
I was riding my bike home from work and this truck came around the corner and almost ran me over.
Oh my god. Do you need me to take you to the hospital?
Okay, so as you can see, the mix is actually, to me, the best combination. When you get the warmth of her sound through the lavalier and also get the ambiance of the shotgun microphone, which gets that room tone in there. So when you can mix audio like this for one or two people, it feels really nice. It sounds really good. So now we're going to go ahead and switch to lighting her close-up. And this is with higher intensity on the 2-foot fill, lower intensity, more 2-to-1 contrast, a lot nicer. That's one less bulb, that's no fill whatsoever. 1 bulb, 2 bulbs, high intensity, low intensity.
This is tricky.
Cool, that's good. Okay, so we got a sense of the set communication there happening between me and the DP, and now I'm going to communicate with the actress and give her some instructions on how to kind of modify her behavior a little bit and modify her body positioning. And action. Relax your shoulder a little bit. Relax your right shoulder. Yeah, there you go. And
Hello?
Rachel. Hi, it's Jake.
Hi.
okay, so you got a little bit of the set interaction between me and the actress, and also you got a sense of what we're using as an audio cue for her to pick up the phone. We didn't want to ring the phone every single time. It kind of didn't work out for us to do that, to call the phone and actually have a phone ring. So we would just knock on the door, or knock on the floor to give her an audio cue to pick up the phone. And you have to do that for your actors. You have to give them an audio cue of some sort. You can't just expect them to pick up the phone at a moment's notice or just say, Okay, phone ringing, give them some kind of an audio cue that doesn't involve you talking to them, because your voice as a director is always going to have authority to it, and you don't want it to come out at inopportune moments. Here's one more take that we did where we used flatter lighting. You can see the fill light coming on and off right there, and we used a lower lighting contrast between the key and the fill. So the fill is brighter here in this shot than it was in the last shot, and we did that just to kind of get one last take, just in case we noticed that the one with the fill at half intensity was just not, was not bright enough to see her facial expressions and her action. That was the DP's suggestion, and that was a very good suggestion. It's one of those things where, when your DP suggests something like this, he's like, well, why don't we get one more take just with, with the fill at maximum intensity and get a lower lighting contrast shot. You really want to listen to these kind of suggestions. He's not telling you to, let's do a cool shot. He's giving you technical advice that you always want to build on and always listen to and always evaluate. And, most of the time when you have an experienced DP, he's probably going to be right. And I would say take it under advisement. Okay, this is Rachel's apartment dining table scene. We just moved to the other side of that easel, further down the line, closer to the door. And we're going to take a look at a pan of the set first and kind of get a sense of exactly what's going on in the set. Here's the entire set. You can see the key lights up in the top left-hand corner. We have a practical right there on the left-hand side. You can see all of our gearboxes there, Kinoflow and all the other gearboxes that we have there. We just kind of put them out of frame so we don't see them. There's the easel from the last shot, and there's the other practical. And now we're going to do some white balance checks. This is at Cinelike V Cinematrix with the HVX300, and now we just switched to Warm Card's warm half white balance. You notice how it's a lot warmer and nicer. It's kind of easier on the eyes, more fitting to the scene. This is just a preset 3200 degrees Kelvin preset tungsten white balance. You notice you lose a little bit of that warmth and color, but it's more natural. I guess it's more what the scene is supposed to look like. There's a warm half again, white balance. This is what we ended up going with for the scene because we liked the warmth of it. This is our professional monitor that we were using on the set the entire time. And we were also looking at our waveform monitor on the bottom right-hand side of that monitor to make sure that we weren't, kind of blowing the whites or the skin tones weren't too dark. There's our DP, and he's preparing the camera. You notice how far away it is from the actual action. We did a dolly shot in this one as well, too, and you'll see the dolly shot. Let's talk about lighting right now. The top left-hand light right there, that's the key light, and you see what kind of light it's throwing right there. It is very flattering, soft light. It's coming in at the right angle, but it's mimicking the action of this chandelier. That's why we had the light up high on the stand and not lower, because it's mimicking the action of the chandelier. The chandelier is supposed to be making top light, which normally would actually make these deep set shadows on the actor's eye sockets, which wouldn't look very nice. So we put our light a little bit off to the side, makes it feel like the chandelier is lighting them, and then we also tinted our light with quarter CTO, that's color temperature orange, and adding that gel to our light made it come down in color temperature a little bit lower and match that chandelier a little bit more naturally. And you can see it actually working right there. These are large gels, of course, that you would use on these lights. They're 2 feet wide. And so the light's going to be pointing in that direction through the gel, and that's the light path. So it's coming at about a top three-quarter off to the left as well, too. And it's going to be hitting the actors. You can see exactly what it's doing to their faces and their bodies right off to the left side right there. That's the direction of the light when you look at the actors. And so you know exactly where the shadows are coming from on their necks when you look at that light now. We try to do these diagrams and settings for you so you can really see exactly where the lights are and what exactly they're doing when you look at a set from now on. So there's the dolly from the perspective of the actors right there in the back. It's about, I would say, 15 feet away. Now, in the kitchen, we put another light, and there's the light path of that light source. That's just a 2-foot tube bank. And we'll show you what that's doing here in a second. Notice our advanced mounting technology there right on the porta brace bag. It's actually lighting her back and making the lighting in that area a little bit more even. And here's the final frame right there. And we're going to go ahead and turn it off. And there it is off. You can see it coming back on and off, and that's just one tube and then second tube. There's one tube coming back on, one, and then two. You can really see the intensity and exactly what it's doing. And now notice when the actress walks past it right there on the rehearsal, you can see exactly what it's doing to her back. It's creating those pockets of light that we talked about earlier, where you want to have your actors walk through pockets of light to kind of feel like they're traversing more distance than they really actually are. I mean, she's only walking about 6 feet towards him, but walking past that light makes it feel like the area is larger. And also in the hallway, we have another light source right there, mounted on a very compact light stand, and that's the 2'4" bank from KinoFlow. So we just used their interview kit, and we mounted it on their on the Matthews Preemie stand, which is probably the only stand that would actually fit in that hallway at that point and go up that high and still allow the actress to come through the hallway without tripping on it. So it's a very nice little compact stand. And so you can see exactly the position of the actress in relation to that light. And here she is coming through the hallway. Her hair on the right side right there of the frame is not lit, and it's also covering up her face. So she went ahead and put the hair on her back instead, opening up her shoulder. So now when she walks in the shot right there, you can see that there's an edge light on the right side of her body now, and also an edge on the door from that light. Before that, it was just, you couldn't see her face from before. But now that she put her hair off to the back, you can see the light actually working and actually separating her body. There's that light going on and off, and you can see exactly what it's doing in that hallway. It makes it feel like there's a hallway light there. It's a very natural light source. It would be there normally, just a little hallway light. So that's why we also put it up high like that and not a lower angle. So notice what it's doing just for him. It's actually lighting him in that position, and we're going to go ahead and model that light for you in that position for him just to see exactly what it's doing for the actor in that very position, and then we'll do it for the both of them together. So we're going to go ahead and turn off the tubes one at a time and show you what that looks like. There's 1 off, 2 off, 3 off, and 4 off. You can see he's kind of wrapped in darkness right there. That's just being lit by the kitchen light. There's no light on the left side of his face anymore. It doesn't feel like he's being lit by that chandelier anymore. And here it is again, turning back on. You can see that highlight on his face which matches the chandelier's direction, and it actually feels like it's a natural location now. Okay, and here we are. We're going to go ahead and start turning it on again and show you on a medium shot what it would look like. And here it is when they're both there. That's what that key light's going to be doing. It is still hitting the both of them, and it's creating that shadow on the back wall, which is a natural shadow that's in keeping with the chandelier's direction. Okay, so we're going to turn them off right now. And here it is going off and coming back on, and you can see it really doing, its job right there and matching that chandelier's direction. Okay, now let's talk about the background. Notice how that credenza in the background there, it's a little bit too dark. There's really no light on it at all. It has no life to it. So we're going to go ahead and add a little light panel right there on the left-hand side. And it's not really creating a lot of light there. What it's creating is a highlight. And that highlight is going to end up selling that particular credenza as being lit, as having more life and depth to it. Don't forget, lightness advances, darkness recedes. So when you have something advancing from the background a little bit that has a little bit more light on it, it's going to feel more natural. It's going to feel like there's more depth to the set because it is a very compact set that we're working on here. So there it is again with the light on right now. And you can see that you have that highlight in there. It feels like it's more natural. It separates it from his body, from his shoulders. So now we're going to go ahead and do no lighting and just gain up for you so you can see exactly what it looks like if you'd arrived on the set and you had done absolutely no lighting and you just wanted to use gain. There's 12 decibels of gain. And you can make your opinion about whether you like that particular type of look or not, but there it is just so you can see it. You can see how the chandelier is kind of burned out there. And here's our lighting. It's motivated from the natural light sources, but it feels nice, and we actually have a proper exposure on the camera. It still feels dark and dim, which is what we wanted it. We wanted it to feel dark and dim, but it actually has a decent exposure and doesn't have all that grain and noise in it. Okay, so now we're also catching the KinoFlow ballast there in the bottom right-hand side. I caught it a couple times when we were doing rehearsals, so didn't want to take any chances of not noticing it in the middle of a take because we were both looking at something else. So we just took a pillow and we covered it up. And that's how easy it is sometimes to dress up the set and make sure that you can't see the actual ballasts and lights in the background. And now we're going to add the transmitters to our actors, lavalier transmitters. So it's a lavalier microphone. You can see where the actor is putting it right there, right underneath his shirt. And now we're going to show you a little trick on how to hide a stand like this. This is the DP's specialty here, is to hide light stands in the shot. He takes a cardellini, which is that little device right there, that is a very nice little clamp. It's about $50, and he's clamping it to the light stand, and he's putting a coat on the cardellini. And there we go. We just covered up a stand. We're going to go ahead and show you what that looked like before and after because we were catching it. And so we're dollying in right there, and as soon as we end up on the final frame, bam, there's the light stand on the left-hand side. And we actually move it in for you so you can see exactly where it is. Because it was within TV safe, but at the same time we wanted to just make sure, because if people are watching it on their computer monitor, they'll still see it. And so it kind of blows the effect. So we went ahead and covered it up with a Cardellini, put the coat on there. And now you're going to see the final effect of that shot. And that's just one of those, DP tricks. That's why you want to listen to your DP usually when they're giving you suggestions, technical suggestions like that about the set. There's the coat right there on the left-hand side. It feels natural. It feels like it would be there. We just turned a light stand into a coat hanger. And here's the DP right now, and he's manning the camera, and he's performing the move right there, the dolly move. He's also got the headphones on. He's watching audio levels. He's moving the dolly, and he's panning the camera all at the same time. And that's why you want to hire decent DPs. That's why you want to hire a good DP that on a low budget shoot like this, where you don't have a bunch of assistants for him, a first AC, a dolly grip, like we had on the studio setup, he can still do his job. He doesn't need all those people. I mean, they help. All those people help. It's wonderful to have everybody, but on an extremely low budget shoot like this, where we couldn't get anybody to come in for 12 hours and do this, he can do it by himself. It's not a big deal. It's just a little bit more tiresome, but he can do it. So there's the actual shot. We're dollying past the easel. Remember we talked about foreground detail, having that foreground detail in there. And also look at that handbag. The handbag's handle has been lowered, and I want to actually draw your attention to it right there and show you exactly what it looks like when you have distracting objects in the frame. Now here's the DP right there. He's going to lower the handbag handle, and that's the shot with the handbag handle up. It kind of just draws your attention to it. It's a shape right there. It's like that triangular shape. And when you put it down, it becomes a smooth surface, and it just doesn't take your attention away from the actors anymore. Those things matter. People look at that stuff. The audience really notices. Now let's listen to some audio.
Just start typing. It doesn't matter what it is.
That's just it. I can't. I told everyone my story ideas, and now it's like the fire's gone.
Just start typing. It doesn't matter what it is.
That's just it. I can't. I told everyone my story ideas, and now it's like the fire's gone.
Just start typing. It doesn't matter what it is.
That's just it. I can't. I told everyone my story ideas, and now it's like the fire's gone.
Just start typing. It doesn't matter what it is.
That's just it. I can't. I told everyone my story ideas, like the fire's gone.
Okay, now that we watched this scene, we hopefully should have gotten a sense of, lighting principles and how to dress up the set properly. And now we're going to move to the log line scene. This is when he tells her that he's going to make up a log line for his movie. And the first thing we're going to talk about is lighting. In this particular scene, we had two separate setups completely, her and him, and they were separated from each other, unlike the last scene. So we had to light each of them separately. She just needed a little bit of light because there was a lot of ambient light coming in from those two Torchier lamps on the left and right hand side of the frame. So we just had to kind of balance with those and add some more light to her that comes from that direction to make it feel more genuine. So we essentially, what we did is we added that Kinoflow 2x2 bank right there in the center of the frame that comes from the same direction as those Torchiers, but at the same time brings up her skin tones and her video level to acceptable levels. And also I wanted to make a note that the practical that is on the left hand side of the frame right there, that is actually close enough to her to actually make a difference. It is actually lighting her, and you can see, you'll actually see when you start modeling the lights that it is actually making a difference on her face, and it is throwing enough light on there to make a difference because of the proximity and the fact that there's a 100-watt bulb in there. Now, when you see it on the left-hand side there, you see that it's illuminating her hair, and even when we take down the key light all the way down, you see that her hair on the left side is still illuminated by that practical lamp. So we're taking the key down all the way right now, and we're flickering it on and off so you can see exactly what it's doing. And here in a moment, we're going to 12 decibels of gain so that you can see exactly what it would look like if you just arrived on the set and done no lighting. So this is 12 decibels of gain. You can see that the practical lamp on the left-hand side is completely blown out, and also the wall right behind it too, and it draws way too much attention away from the actress in that particular circumstance. It's just too much contrast. So when you bring it down and turn on the key light, our key light, it just feels a lot more natural. It feels like those Torchiers are lighting her. Now for him, we had to do a whole different setup. So we had to, generate light from that key light on the right-hand side. This isn't the one that mimics the chandelier. This is the one that mimics the actual light from the hallway that we'd already established in the last scene. So here it is going all the way down. And here it is coming back up. And we're turning it on and off, finding the right levels. That's why it's nice to have those 4 tubes, because you can always find just the right level by turning off, you know, either 1 or 3 or 2 tubes, whatever. So let's talk about his close-up right now and how exactly we lit it. Notice how we're moving the key light off to the left-hand side a little bit, trying to find just the right angle of the key light. You can see his shadow moving behind his head. And now the DP is going to go ahead and move over to the backlight or the kicker, and he's going to actually change the angle of that kicker light. The reason being is that, see that shadow that's being made on the left side of his face? That is coming, and also the fact that his hair is not lit, that's coming because the kicker is improperly placed for a medium shot. It was fine for the wide shot, but now we're going to move it so that that shadow goes away, and now we have a little bit of light on his hair separating him from the background. So there is the final shot right there. It looks so much better. There's no shadow on his eyes, and there's a rim light on his face that actually separates him from the background. So just because the light worked properly in the wide shot does not mean in any way, shape, or form it's going to work for the medium shot. In fact, almost all the time, you'll have to relight for the medium shot. You have to bring the lights down and closer to the actors. You have to move the kicker lights and the backlight so they're in better positions and they're not too bright. You just have to finesse the medium shots and the close-ups, you know, just to kind of get better quality lighting out of them. Don't just shoot with what you had. Go ahead and relight for the medium shots and the close-ups. And now we're going to go ahead and explore the light on the left side of his face and show you how we arrived at that light. Now, it's a kicker light on the left-hand side of his hair right there. And there's a DP attaching a Cardellini to a clothes stand right there. It's a wooden clothes stand, and it was the only thing we could get in that corner. And he's attaching a Matthews mini grip kit to it and also a light panel. And with all those 3 combined, we were able to squeeze a kicker light back there, and it's generating that kind of a beam path right there to the bottom left-hand side of the screen. And we're going to switch to the other side right there and see exactly what it's doing to the actor's hair. And you can see as we take a look at it right there, the beam path is illuminating that side right there, and you can see the light from it right there. And also don't forget, we put some CTO gel in it right there, orange gel, to make it match the rest of our lights so it doesn't feel out of place. And there's a DP right there, and he's going to go ahead and turn it on and off for you to show you exactly what it looks like. There it is off. So you can see he's just part of the background. There's no light on. There it is back on again. You can actually see his hair. So it's really important to remember the principles you learn in the production DVD and actually use your kicker lights and your backlights to separate the actors from the environment and from the background, illuminate them so you can actually see them better. It feels more natural. It feels like there's something that ought to be there because the chandelier is right behind him, and normally it would be making some kind of light. And also don't forget that back in the kitchen, there's still that kitchen light illuminating that area back there that's in the back where the door is, and it's the same light path. We left it in the exact same spot. We just moved from the last scene directly to this scene. We didn't move it at all. It's still in the exact same location. And there it is going on. And double tubes right there. Back down to 1 tube. And there's the light right there that is being created by it on the doorway that convinces us that there is a kitchen light there. So it creates a multifaceted, deeply lit scene. You know, it feels like it has depth to it. When you turn it off, it just turns flat. There's just nothing there. So you kind of have to have that, you know, because it adds light to the background, it adds light to the kitchen, it increases the depth of the frame. So there's the DP moving the plant and moving that little box there, and he's putting the lamp up on the box for her medium shot. We had already gotten the wide shot, we didn't need to do it anymore. So we just wanted to get a clean medium shot just on her and a close-up where she feels like she's being more lit by that practical. And so we just got a little bit closer to her. We didn't have to increase the light, we didn't have to add more lights. We just moved the plant, put the light up on that little box, and got it closer to her, and there it is live. And you can see how that changes the entire ambiance of that shot. It's just really important to do that. But the other thing that we noticed is that when we put the plant there, it kind of got in the way. It just feels like, you know, she's looking around the plant to see him. So even if we just kind of changed the camera angle a little bit, it didn't work. And we didn't really want to change the camera angle. We liked that angle exactly the way it is. So we decided to do is just move the plant back and forward towards the camera, which changes the entire angle. And that kind of removes that distracting thing that's going to be in the frame that blocks her from being able to look at him. There it is before, and there it is after, and there's the actual scene that we ended up using. And watch when she looks off now. Her face is very nicely illuminated by that practical light. The plant's out of the way. It's a very nice, well-balanced frame, and it's very cohesive. It's harmonious. The color of her shirt is harmonizing with the color of the of that blanket that's on the couch. It's just a nice frame. And you notice that people will only notice all the good things that you do when you take care of all the bad things that are in the frame. And there's the DP performing the action. You can see just how difficult of an action that is. And there's the actual real dolly shot. So the cable was getting in our way, so we just use a little bit of Velcro right there, and that way when he does the actual move, the cable doesn't get tied up underneath the Indie Dolly's wheels, and he can actually perform the move a lot easier. This is another safety shot that we filmed where we did the dolly and just the actor by himself sitting in that position, just in case we needed it later on for pacing. Maybe she's in a different part of the apartment and he's just there by himself, or we were creating some kind of audio segue or audio cues for him. It's always good to do that. While you have the dolly set up and while you have the shot set up, just do one more move, do one more action, one more take, just to make sure you've got coverage of a scene, even with just one of the actors. You never know how you're going to use it later on in the future. Another thing we could have done is just had him wear a different outfit, like this is a whole different day. And that would have worked out too. Let's talk some more about set dressing. Notice that phone cradle on the left-hand side of the frame and how it's reflecting so much light back into the camera. And we're going to go ahead and turn that phone cradle so that it doesn't reflect as much light, and we actually see the gray side of it instead. It's just a minor thing. I mean, it feels minor, but it really is a major thing. Whenever you have chrome or reflective surfaces, make sure you mind them. Notice also when we cover up those cables, those distracting cables behind the table right there, that way when you see them, it's not these cluster of cables that are distracting you underneath the table, but just a pillow and nothing more. Now let's talk about blocking and her body position right there. Let's see her body position as it is right there. Now see, that's just a little bit more of a compact frame. It feels nicer and more natural. Just the fact that her foot was right there in front of the camera, it didn't feel right. Even though it kind of looked good from other angles, but it didn't feel right on this one. So we had her kind of draw her legs back so that, you have to modify your actor's blocking sometimes in ways that are kind of weird, because in this particular case, the reason I did that is because of the foreshortening. It just felt like her foot or her leg was just so much larger than her face, and it just didn't feel right, so we had to have her draw her legs back. Now let's talk about eye lines. See how she's looking off to the left-hand side? Well, it feels like when she's sitting in a position like that, like maybe she ought to be looking to the right-hand side of the frame, because that would feel more natural with her body position, the way that she is. However, that would not end up cutting with the other shot that we did of him, where he's looking off to frame right. So if she's looking off to frame right and he's looking off to frame right, it's just not going to work out. She has to look to frame left because we're staying on the correct line of sight. They have that invisible line between their faces, between their eyes, and we have to stay on the correct side of that line. So let's watch exactly how that works. We're going to actually demonstrate this right now. Here's her shot. That's her medium shot. There she is looking in the incorrect direction. This is if we had crossed the line over to the left side of her, and she's now looking towards the right side of the frame instead. And watch how that does not work, because her eye line goes in this direction right here to the right-hand side. And he's also looking in the exact same direction. So if they're both looking in the same direction, it's not going to cut. But when she looks off to the left-hand side, and he also looks off to the right-hand side, then their looks match. So he's looking to the right, she's looking to the left, their looks match, we stayed on the correct side of the eye line. You always want to manage that. That's the most important thing. Here's a split screen to show you exactly what we're talking about. And also make sure you have them look at the correct angle, where he's kind of looking towards the right and like that, and then she's also looking towards the left. Now let's talk about some audio. Let's listen to some audio over here, and we'll be able to compare the differences between them.
Tell me what you think of this as a log line.
What's a log line?
Right. Log line's kind of like a synopsis. Tell me what you think of this as a log line.
What's a log line?
Right. Log line's kind of like a synopsis. Tell me what you think of this as a log line.
What's a log line?
Right. Log line's kind of like a synopsis. Tell me what you think of this as a log line.
What's a log line?
Right. Log line's kind of like a synopsis.
Okay, now that we watched that, you can make your own opinion about which sounds best to you. And also, we're going to wrap up by talking about, just real quick, all the scenes that we shot in this one location, in this just one living room area, in one day, with different lighting and a whole different theme on each one. You can notice that the lighting has changed a little bit, and we used 3 instruments pretty much the entire time, which is just a Kinoflow 2'4" bank and 2 2'2" banks, which is just the interview kit that they rent and sell, and also 1 LED light, which is the light panel. And we're able to achieve all those different looks and different scenes in one location in one day, covered pretty much about 4 different scenes.